So what's the best form of self-care? Find out on this episode of IncreMental Health Tips. Welcome to IncreMental Health Tips. My name is Jared, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Liz. Today we're going to be talking about the most effective forms or types of self-care. Now, just to begin, we all get stressed out, we all get overextended and need to recharge the batteries. And so to do that, a lot of research and a lot of doctors actually recommend self-care. And Liz, you were telling me just before we started recording this that there are actually different types of self-care, which I guess to some degree I knew that there are different types, but maybe we can just go through some of the different forms of self-care, and you can talk about each one and sort of some strategies, some practical strategies. Is there anything that we should know before we get going?
Well, I think oftentimes when people think of self-care, they usually get stuck in one or two of these categories, and they have a hard time generating any other ideas of things that they can do in order to take care of themselves. And so I think breaking it into categories makes it a lot easier to brainstorm and think of ideas that would work for you.
Well, and also depending on what kind of problem you're having, a different category might be more effective. It might be a more effective solution. So these 7 types of self-care is actually taken from Dr. Barbara Markway, and it's published in Psychology Today, so you can Google that, or we'll have a link in the description if you'd like to find more information. But the first type of self-care that we're going to talk about is sensory self-care. So that's more using your senses around you as a form of self-care. Liz, can you talk about that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so if you think about your body, it has different senses like seeing, smelling, sounds, tastes, and touch. And so all of those different categories are different ways that you can take care of yourself. So something like feeling a soft blanket, or listening to running water, taking a hot shower or a warm bath. All of these things, they're things that involve senses, even listening to music. And just thinking about what can you do with your senses. Is there a specific taste that helps you feel like you're taking care of yourself? So all those different things, if you start thinking about those categories on their own, you can start thinking about different ways you could take care of yourself.
Well, and it even can be something active. I know that I used to have, when I was in grad school, very, very long days of reading and studying, and I used to burn a scented candle while I did that, and that just sort of helped me. It just sort of took the edge off the stress. Well, and the other thing is the candles that I had lasted about 4 hours, so after 4 hours, once the candle went out, I had to take a break. It was one of my sort of timers, so served a dual purpose there. So the second type, I think a lot of us are intuitively, this is more what comes to mind, which is doing pleasurable activities. So like, other than obviously eating a bowl of ice cream and watching Netflix, what other sorts of things does that entail?
Well, I find that when I go through this list with clients who are really burned out tend to neglect this category. So this could be eating at a restaurant you like, making your favorite meal, be a tourist in your own city, doing gardening, whatever you find pleasurable whether, it's making an arts and crafts, journaling, going for a walk and taking some pictures, or, whatever you enjoy, that is actually a form of self-care, to engage in something that you enjoy.
Right, and it also takes your mind off of whatever is causing your stress, or it can. The third type is mental mastery. So these are like little, like challenging yourself in some way, or maybe finding something on your to-do list and getting that done. So what's that about?
So this is especially important for someone who needs a boost to their self-confidence. So, you might not think much about cleaning up a space in your home, but if you're feeling like you can't do anything, well, cleaning up is usually fairly manageable. And if you don't finish cleaning up with the amount of time you have, you can always return to it again. So having a task that you can do, that you can succeed at, but at least has some level of challenge to it, whether, it's a crossword or some kind of puzzle, just trying something new and getting a task done can be a really motivating thing.
Well, it can be really gratifying. I know that you have your advanced Sudoku and I have mechanical puzzles. So the fourth category is spiritual. So obviously, spirituality means different things to different people. But what are some types of spiritual self-care?
So this doesn't mean that a person has to be religious in order to have a spiritual sense of self-care. So for someone religious, this might include things like attending church, praying, connecting with their community. But someone who's not religious, there's still a lot of things that they could do that would fall into this category, like reading poetry or inspiring quotes, lighting a candle, meditation, writing in a journal, spending time in nature, or listing things that you're grateful for.
Well, it's ultimately getting in touch with your values and sort of your moral sense of good.
Yeah, and I do think part of that connection to something that is greater than yourself can really help focus you more on the big picture instead of what you're struggling with in that moment.
All right, so the fifth type is emotional. So typically when I think of emotional self-care, I mean, is that just working out your emotions, or is that or what all does that involve?
So I think the first step with this can be being able to accept your feelings. A lot of times people struggle with, are my feelings normal? Is it okay that I feel this way? And I've talked to people who they've gone through a traumatic experience and they talk to me about how they're feeling, and I'm just like, yeah, that's pretty normal for what you've been through. If you were just feeling like that and nothing had ever happened, then that might be a different situation. But, if you've just lost a loved one and you're feeling upset over it, that's pretty normal. And it's okay to feel down or sad or whatever's going on. Our emotional reactions, usually they're fairly normal for whatever we're going through. And so acknowledging those, whether that means you need to write it down or, whatever you need to do in order to get in touch with those emotions, it can really make a big difference.
So the sixth type of self-care is physical self-care, and we've actually talked about this one a lot in some of our other podcasts and videos. So dealing with stress in a physical way, like exercise. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I think this is probably one of the main categories that people tend to know is something that is a great self-care thing. Something like going for a walk or a run, it's really great for managing anxiety. And so a lot of times this is the main self-care area that people tend to focus on. So these are all great things to do. Being physical is great, but sometimes physical self-care might mean taking a nap. If you have been doing a lot and your body's exhausted, sometimes you just need a rest, and that's perfectly okay too.
And the final one is, because we can't do it alone, is social self-care. So that's getting others involved. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, from my conversations with people over this last year, this one's been the one that's hit hardest. And for people who've relied on social connection to others with the isolation that has resulted from the pandemic, they have really been struggling to find other self-care options. And I do think it's important to keep in mind that you do need to stay connected with people, whether that means you're reaching out to them or whatever it means. You do need to have a social connection with other friends, family, and that is part of self-care.
Well, and also just knowing that you're not alone and not trying to get everything sorted out yourself. You don't have to. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be vulnerable and share all your problems with others to get social self-care. Sometimes just being with and having positive interaction can be helpful.
Yeah, and one of the things I encourage people to do is they have some people you can go to for support, but also have some people you can go to just to have fun. If you're going through a difficult time, you should not spend all your time focusing on that difficult thing. You need to have times where you can detach and disconnect from it and just do something fun.
Yeah, and sometimes it can help to compartmentalize things. If you have a stressful job, you might have friends from work, but try to have friends outside of work so that it's not a constant bombardment of work stimulus whenever you spend social time. So these tips, I think, give our listeners a good basis. So when you're looking to care for yourself, don't just do one of these areas. Try to see if you can address multiple areas, because you never know what may work better for you in the long run. And on that's all the time we have for today. But if you enjoy our content, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, until next time, even small steps can lead to big changes. We'll see you next time.